In our second episode in this series, we chatted about getting folks into a mindset, envisioning their day, envisioning themselves in their new role, and how we can give them tools to best support them. Today, we continue our discussion about training middle management and unlocking some more secrets to getting the best out of these dedicated and hardworking folks.
You don't lead camp because you love the office. Ultra Camp has everything you need to manage your program so you can spend more time doing what you love. Manage staff, register campers, take payments, and direct communication all in one place.
Welcome to Camp Code, a podcast brought to you by Go Camp Pro. We have seen a lot of changes in our industry over the last 10 years since our podcasting adventure first began. The landscape certainly looks very different as we head into the 2023 camp season, and yet the importance of a well thought out staff training remains the same. This season, we're delving into new topics, new ideas for skill development, coping strategies, and ways to support our staff to bring their very best. Yes, the what has certainly changed in the last 10 years, but the why remains the same. And joining me today are my two excellent co-hosts. So Beth, will you start us off with some introductions?
Absolutely. I am Beth Allison. I'm co-owner of Go Camp Pro and Camp Hacker. My pronouns are she and her. And I am a camp consultant and trainer whose biggest passion is leadership training.
Thank you very much. And Gabrielle.
I have to agree that Beth's biggest passion is leadership team training. My name is Gabrielle Real, and I am one of the camp directors at Camp Poro. Camp Poro is, as we say in French, my coup de cœur, and we try to create a positive environment for girls, and my pronouns are she, her.
Thank you, Gabs. And I'm Ruby Compton. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Chief Exploration Officer for Ruby Outdoors, which is a training and support company for camps and outdoor programs. And I'm based in the Asheville, North Carolina area. All right, so today we are, believe it or not, continuing our discussion of middle management.
Yes, we are.
Look, there's a lot of middle managers in the camp industry. And if you haven't listened, we have 2 other episodes about this. So if you haven't checked those out, you can dive in right here. That's fine. You don't have to listen to those first. But I do recommend checking them out if this is something that you're interested in learning more about. And just a quick recap of the fact that when we say middle management, that can mean a lot of different stuff at a lot of different camps. So we're talking about those folks who are not the frontline staff and they're not the big boss. Whether that big boss is an owner or an executive director, whatever that may look like, there are some people that are in the middle and don't fall into either of those categories. And so there are some unique challenges that come from being in the middle. And I keep getting the stuck in the middle with you song every time we say in the middle, which I don't think we can sing because of copyright, but whatever. So if you're thinking it, I'm thinking it too. You can sing it to yourself. All right. So we want to jump right in and get going with a few more ideas. And Beth, I'm curious, what else is on your mind as far as training middle management?
For today, I thought for part 3 of this very important topic, I wanted to share a few ideas for continuing staff development throughout the summer and not just in leadership training. And like our last podcast, I've broken the ideas down into 10-minute segments in case you don't want to do something all at once. Okay, so first idea for the week of camp. So after campers have arrived and your middle management has been doing their jobs for about a week or so with kids there, ask them to write down their answers to the following 2 questions in bullet point form. Number 1, here is what is stressing me out with my position. And number 2, here is what I need to do my job better. And when they're finished, have them write their name on the back, let them know that no one else is going to see it but you. But take time later that day. Do not wait. Take time later that day to read them all. And then, of course, address anything you need to with any individuals. Observe if there are any patterns. So if a lot of staff are writing the same stressors, then you need to do more training on a certain topic, or you need to address an issue with staff or with campers. Another way would be able to ask staff the following questions on their own. So again, for 3 minutes, just get them to write, what part of the day do you look forward to? What part of the day stresses you out? So ask them to share with a partner the parts of their answers that they're comfortable sharing, and have their partner give some helpful feedback if it's relevant. You're letting them know that with these short kinds of exercises, that you're expecting there to be things that are giving them stress right now, and that that's normal, and that you'll figure it out. And B, you've asked them for specifics on how you can help them do their jobs better. And of course, this technique is also one that you can encourage them to do with the people in their care too. So we're transferring skills down that whole cascading thing we've talked about before. Another idea would be during training, give them some time to think about the legacies that people have left over the years. So you may want to introduce this topic by doing a slideshow of like alumni over the years who've made a great impact on camp or its people, and then ask them to share with one another any outstanding staff that they've seen over the years. And of course, if they're new to your camp and they've never been there before, they're more than welcome to share the names of any great leaders that they've experienced. Now get them to really think specifically and share what they think that person's legacy has been. What has that person left, and how have they changed your camp for the better? And now you're going to ask your staff to journal their answers to that question. What legacy do you want to leave, and what steps do you need to take? I would do this exercise again halfway through the summer. Has anything changed, the legacy itself or the steps that are needed to get there? And then I would revisit legacy one more time in the very last week of the summer and ask them to journal. Now that the summer is winding down, are there things that I need to change or tweak to ensure my legacy will be possible? Thinking about what they want to leave behind when their time at camp is done, whether it's at the end of the summer or 20 years from now, is a very powerful exercise that gets them truly thinking about their gifts and their talents and how they wish to be remembered. And I think I'll stop there for now.
Excellent. So I've got some writing to do. I like it. And yeah, let's hand it over to Gabs. What ideas do you have to continue our discussion about training middle management?
A lot of middle management are supervising staff members, and I think for the most part, they're probably very capable at doing the job that they were doing before, and now they have to teach other people to do that. So I like to help those middle management individuals to answer this question. What are 5 basic skills that your staff need to have to do their job successfully? And what are 5 basic things that staff need to know to do this job successfully? I find this to be really, really insightful in the sense of understanding where that middle management's priorities are and where they think some of the issues might arise and perhaps was influenced from previous years. This allows me to also fill in some of the gaps or help them to get even simpler on their expectations of the staff members that they'll be managing. It also helps me help them break it down. So typically some of the things that will come up in, what staff members need to know would be, that it's important to communicate. And then I would say, well, what is good communication? And then they say, well, when there's an issue, well, what is described as an issue? And we go sort of down that path until we get quite specific. It also allows me to talk about the importance and value of expectations, which all 3 of us and everybody that's listening knows that this Camp Code team is a big fan of front loading and expectations. But by doing this exercise, this is where our middle management staff members start to understand, oh, I see why expectations are important. Because then you could say, imagine if you said at this point in the middle of the summer, this is important. We want to do that before our staff members start. And then having them imagine, how do I help build communication with my staff members? How do I express that to them? How do we create practical experiences so they can practice it? So 5 skills that we want our staff members to do, 5 things that we want our staff members to know, and have middle management come up with that list and then make it a discussion.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So many good ideas already so far on this episode about things to ask your staff to do or reflect on to get them going and get them to be a part of the process for making their summer successful. My first tip today is something that does fall more on the shoulders of your owner, your director, maybe your other year-round folks. But I think you need to make sure your middle management has a place to take a break and a space, right? Because as someone who has had to live with people she is supervising during the summer, it is not restful to go back to the cabin and like the people that maybe have been stressing me out or are looking to me as a resource are there. So I like the place that became our kind of restful spot was the camp director would let us go over to his house and like sit around the campfire that he had there. So consider, do your middle management folks have a place where they can fully take a break? If you're an overnight camp, the staff lounge is probably not that space. That's the space for the frontline staff, but probably not your middle management. And they may still be friends with some of those folks hanging out there, but that may not be the dynamic that you want. You may not want them hanging out in the staff lounge with their frontline staff all the time. So whether it's an extra cabin, an extra office, a tent over on the far corner of the field, and really think about not just a place where like the copy room where the mailboxes are and where they can go and hide and chat with a buddy, but like really a place where they can stop and take a break. And that may not be the place that they're living. It may be the place that they're living, but I would challenge you to try to give them an additional place on camp. And that space is just so important for really your staff getting that rest and that moment to go or have private conversations, or whether that's personal stuff that's going on or stuff that's going on at camp. But you know, the walls have ears at camp. And so to really give them a space that can be their space to go debrief and process their days, I think that's really important. I was a full-time camp director who had summer staff living in my house during the summer. And fortunately, I got to choose who those folks were, but that was a challenge. And there were some things that I loved about it, like the fact that there were people that, even though I supervised them, that some of them were like activity coordinators, so there wasn't as direct of a relationship, and so I could kind of chat with them and whatever. But yeah, it was not ideal. I'm just going to say it that way. It was not ideal, and it was not the space that I needed. We had lots of land, so I could go take a hike and it was fine, but consider that. And if you're thinking the place that my staff take a break is in the office or in the staff lounge, not good enough. So see if you can find some more space for them this summer.
And not their car or the camp van.
Right.
I mean, those who know, and it's not horrible, but it's not the place.
It's not ideal. Well, speaking of taking a break, we're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor. And when we come back, we'll have a few more ideas for you. Exclusive to Camp Code listeners, you can discover the 10 best marketing tools and tips for camps by visiting ultracampmanagement.com/campcode and downloading UltraCamp's free guide, The Marketing Toolbox. Do you remember why you chose to get into the camping world? UltraCamp knows it wasn't because you loved paperwork. That's why they built a platform that's as flexible and affordable as it is powerful, so that you can keep your program moving forward. UltraCamp offers pricing that is transparent and flexible, which means that you can rest easy and focus on what's important, your campers. They have low minimum entry, clear pricing with no hidden costs, flexible payment terms, and no long-term contracts. UltraCamp's goal is to help their clients spend less time in the office and more time doing what they love. Want to know if UltraCamp is the right fit for you? You can have a free customized demo session and see their software in action. You can sign up at ultracampmanagement.com/campcode. All right, my friends, we are back. And as we are drawing to the second half of our third episode about middle management training, I'm curious what else is in your reservoir, Beth. What else have you got there?
So I have just a few sort of really super quick little exercises.
Awesome.
Again, 10 minutes. So this one should be done before camp begins, and again, halfway through the summer. So make 2 teams, give each team 3 minutes to decide what lifelong learnables, thank you, Michael Brandwine, these are what they want them to be for the summer. So these would be things like, what do they want to teach their campers or the people in their care? Things like patience, grit, courage, lifelong learnables, not just, archery skills. Things that they want to teach your campers this summer and how they're going to do it. So give them 2 minutes, 3 minutes to write it down and 2 minutes to share. And then halfway through the summer, revisit this and have each team decide what lifelong learnables you've already taught and which ones you want to work on in the following month. And I find it works best if you're being really specific about the learnable as well as sharing the how, because that cements what's important and it gives other staff ideas about how to accomplish their lifelong learnables. So again, that's a Michael Brandwein thing, the 3 L's, but it's really, really helps to cement in their brains what it is they're trying to accomplish and gives them some ideas about how to do it. A few quick activities that you can do in concentric circles or with partners or by journaling. You pick whatever it is, but give them 5 minutes per question. So they can partner up and share answers to what staff members in your care are you connecting with and how can you tell? Partner number 2, what staff members are you struggling with and what have you tried to resolve this? And you can either front load this activity by reinforcing the importance of confidentiality or do not have the staff reveal names, but rather just the behaviors. You decide, you know your staff better. Give staff 5 minutes to journal. What have you struggled with in your leadership with your staff members? Ask them to share one item and group those like issues together and give the groups or pairs 5 minutes to discuss and come up with ideas to try. You can do the same type of activity on another day by asking, what have you struggled with in the community building with your staff members? And on another day, what have you struggled with in your communication with the staff members that work for you or report to you? Or what have you struggled with in the task management with your staff members? The important part is that you are specifically focusing on these skills that they need to develop. You're role modeling that these are huge parts of your camp, and you're helping them, again, practice reflection, self-reflection, and problem solving. And finally, one of the most important parts of middle management staff is role modeling the behavior that you want to see from all your other staff. So we want to get them to evaluate that. So maybe you want to sit down partway through the summer and ask your middle management team, how are we best role modeling great staff behavior? In teams of 5 or whatever number you like, ask them to come up with a long list and to be really specific. Share those answers, make one huge long list, and give the staff 2 minutes to journal what they individually need to work on. Can they check themselves off all of these role modeling things, or do they have certain things that they're going to work on? Are there areas that they're missing, ones they seem to be doing exceptionally well? If so, what steps do they need to take? This can all be done as silent reflection, or you can have them share in small group or partners. I think that what you want to remember is that you are talking about and helping them figure out how to equip, support, and clear obstacles for all those people in your care. So if you remember back to the very first episode we did on this topic of middle management, it's the people in your care. How are you equipping them, supporting them, and clearing obstacles for them? And is there anything else you need to do differently? So just some more group reflection and or silent reflection.
Fantastic. You know, I am a sucker for reflection. So you're speaking my language, Beth. Gabrielle, any other tips that you want to offer on this topic?
Yeah, this might be a little bit out there, but for me, it's like go shopping with them. I think it's really nice to help them set up if, a lot of our middle management, if they're, coming onto camp, they've never had an office at camp. What do you need and how do we personalize that? I also find when I go shopping with my staff or middle management team, there's just impromptu random conversations that happen. I get to meet them on a different level. I can also talk about work while we're maybe getting some of the supplies. I could give them a small budget and say, like, here, spend it the way you want to. But it's also me saying, like, I'm here to help support you. This is a new role. And I'm not just expecting them to come and supply all of their pens, papers, et cetera, might give them a kit of like Sharpies and duct tape and say, this Sharpie goes on your desk, the rest you hide because you will need this. And this is an amazing bribing tool for a staff member being like, here's one Sharpie, just like what I'm doing with you right now. So this is, I think that for me, It's a way for them to get to know you a little bit differently. You get to go on a little bit of a road trip. There's some great conversation that can happen, and it's fun to set up your office. It's exciting, and there's some great conversations that can happen. So if you can take them just a little quick shopping trip, even if it's half an hour. In Canada, we'd get a Tim Hortons coffee. United States, Starbucks. I don't know. You do what you do, but it also allows them to see you in a different light.
I love that.
And that's a Jackie Rail thing. I'm borrowing right from her.
What's funny is the camp that I work for during the summer now, one of the big like CIT programs is that they get to go on Jeff leave, which means they go with one of the owners out into town and like go to Walmart. And it's amazing. Like the kids look forward to it so much. So I can only imagine that even more so as a staff member. It's awesome.
Well, and it's cool because you can bring other, more mature or experienced middle management, and they'll say, "Oh, you definitely are going to want this," and they're like, "I didn't know." They're like, "Yeah, sticky notes are really important." It's sort of like you can pass on some of that information, but it's a fun little road trip, and yeah, it's something exciting about getting out of camp.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to piggyback on the idea of some things you may want to do during your kind of like supervisor training or early on in your training with your middle management folks. And this is I have two things. One is doing the draw your office activity. And this is one I did every year when I got my leadership team together. And I would give them a piece of paper and say, draw me your workspace. And this is your ideal workspace. It doesn't have to be what you're actually going to have here at camp, but in your role this summer, what is, show me your workspace. And this is similar to it's another version of some of the stuff that Beth has invited you to do, but it's things like getting them to reflect on, how they work, like Gav said earlier, like, what does a good day look like? If I'm, not in the office at all, that's a good day. How organized and tidy are you? Also the perspective that people use, like some people, when I say draw your workspace, they will like do a bird's eye view of their desk, right? And then other people will kind of draw the space really differently. So I think it gives you a ton of information about how people work and starts to provide some of that shared language for folks about what works well, what doesn't work well, and how to talk to me about that sort of stuff. And you're just learning some of their values, which is key. Which rolls me into my second one, which I can't believe we've done 3 episodes and nobody has said, I don't think, personality assessments. Yeah, you did. Okay, Beth, you did.
Beth said it though very quickly in the first episode, and I remember even like in the recap, I was like, we need to delve into this. Okay. Personality a little I think it's worth going a little bit in more detail.
And I've also read some information about like being conscientious of the personality assessments you're opting for and how that intersects with the inclusion lens. And so consider that. And I want to share like a couple of the ones that I've really appreciated. Disc profile is one of my favorite ones that I ever used, and it just did such a good job. Classic, like 4-quadrant, where are you? These are the values you have. But it did such a good job of creating a shared language about, strengths of folks, things that are challenging. And when people are freaking out, it's because of this. And it's just a starting place. People are complex, but it's such a helpful picture and one that we utilized. I know Beth is very familiar with True Colors, and that's a system, that's an option. There's so many that are out there. Find one that works for you. Try it out a couple years. Do it with your full staff, but like definitely do it with the folks you're going to be working the most closely with, because it's just going to give you that much more empathy and understanding of how folks work. So find one that works for you, utilize it, or find some way to give folks the opportunity to share more about who they are, what they value, what they are challenged by. But personality assessments, I think, are a smart way, some smart systems that are out there. And you don't have to spend a ton of money on it either. That's the other thing. Don't do that. Awesome. All right. Any other thoughts from anybody before we roll into our recap? I'm seeing lots of head shaking. So
ready
Gabrielle.
for recap.
Recap. So we're going to look at this like more like a bullseye, and we're going to start at the middle and then dissolve out, if you will. So when we start at the middle, everything that we do, of course, we want our mission to get middle, and then we want to connect that person to the mission. So one of the ways to do that is first and foremost, think about that middle management person. Do they have a place to regroup, to connect with themselves, to take a break, to center themselves? This is something that we want to focus on. I know sometimes it's hard to find that for our middle management team, but let's brainstorm and figure that out. Once we do that, then we can start shifting out and being like, what is my experience in this role? And Beth had some really great suggestions. One of the things was to envision yourself walking around camp. What are certain areas that stresses you out? What are some areas that you're more drawn to? The same towards staff. What are some staff members that maybe I'm avoiding? Maybe who are the staff members that I'm connecting with? So checking in with yourself and doing that exercise, and then also talking with others about that so that we can start to problem solve. And then we start to shift into a little bit more leadership. What are 5 skills that we want our staff members to be able to accomplish? What are some 5 things that we want our staff members to be able to do? And what are some lifelong learnables that we want our staff members to be able to experience throughout the summer? So we want to start with the middle, the center, the mission, branch out to ourselves, and then pass on to looking at our staff, how we want to lead them.
That's so beautiful. And I'm like envisioning the bullseye, and you've got people in circles, and then we're going to turn outward and you're going to go do this work now that you've got all the heart centered. Oh my gosh.
Listen,
Don't just
it's
want
going to be
a
a
training
great
session
summer
right now.
Everybody, the summer is going to be great. Okay.
I
It's going to be
love
amazing.
I love it. Well, if you love this podcast and you'd like to get involved, you can tell us your thoughts on this episode and the others in this series, or anything this whole season, or in the last 10 years of our podcast, by using the hashtag Camp Code. You can also tell us what topics you'd like for us to discuss, any guests you'd recommend we have on the show, any great leadership training tips you have to share. We'd love to hear from you. We are all about sharing in this industry. And if you have found this podcast to be useful, please leave a rating and review in your podcasting app of choice. Your feedback helps keep the show going and helps folks find us. We want to make sure you know how to get in touch with us if you have questions. So Beth, where can folks reach you?
Our website is gocamp.pro. I'm at Beth at gocamp.pro, and on Twitter at Topaz.
Thank you much. And Gabs?
Our website is waro.com. You can get me at info@waro, and you can find me on Instagram, Gabrielle Rail with 2 L's.
Excellent. And you can email me, ruby@rubyoutdoors.com, as well as find me on Instagram at rubyoutdoors. For our next podcast, you're just going to have to wait and see. We'll tell you. We've been so focused on middle management that we're not ready to tell you yet. So just tune in and check out your feed in a couple of weeks, and you'll see what it is.
I'm willing to bet it's about leadership training.
I think there's a really good chance.
Wait, what? I thought it was bread making, but sure.
Bread making would be cool.
Oh my gosh, really?
What can we learn from bread making?
Beth already has an analogy. It's already ready.
Yeah. You
can't make bread without the flour. So we'll just leave it on that, okay?
So perfect. All right. Well, our final segment on each podcast is a best practice for leadership training. And we would love to hear some of your most memorable moments or most effective tips. You can tell us what they are using that hashtag Camp Code on your social media of choice. And this week's best practice comes from Gabrielle.
So my best practice is not something I've actually tried before, but I think it's going to work out great for everybody. First, the best practice is this is the best practice, and here's an example of one. Best practice is bring your passion to camp in little small increments. So this summer, I'm going to plan on bringing Lego to our staff training. If you go online, there's a bunch of like bulk Lego, used Lego that you can buy mostly from eBay and other areas. Follow the system, everybody. We know 4 stars, they're good. Below that, don't buy from them. So why have the Lego? One, if you're excited and passionate about something, and especially if it's something that connects to your childhood, your staff members like feed off that energy, and it gives them permission to be silly and have a good time, fun, etc. Lego is durable, and the amount of things that you can do with this for staff training, I think, is endless. Here are some ways that I thought we could use it. So one, you could use different color pieces of Lego for a voting system. You could use it also for an understanding system in different parts of your session. If you put a red brick, that means I understood nothing. If you put a yellow brick, somewhat. Green brick means I really understand. Blue brick means I could teach this session, and we know that we're ready to pair them up with somebody that perhaps has a red brick. You could also divide into teams. You could also have them build random little creatures, put those creatures in the middle of the circle, and then put out a topic. And then you would choose not your creature, but another creature that would represent how you feel about that topic. There's it also represents, if it's raining outside, here are some things that we can do on indoors. My best practice is bring your passion to camp. Let your staff experience that. It gives them permission to bring passion. But I think Lego is a wonderful way to do some cool stuff when it comes to staff training.
All right. That could be another training topic too. I don't know. Sounds good. It's awesome. All right. Well, my friends, Camp Code is part of the Go Camp Pro podcast network. You can check out all other podcasts at gocamp.pro/podcasts. There are 7 podcasts in all, each with a different focus to help as many camp folks as we can. Give them a listen. And from all of us here at Camp Code, thanks for the listening, friends.